feedback too. Okay. So in the meeting that we had, we we talked a little bit about a couple different things yesterday with the dean, and then the dean told us what they were considering and not considering. But what was weird about all of this is we received a memo last week from the chancellor. The chancellor, it's funny because I think of always like the chancellor is the Chancellor Palpatine in Star Wars, right? But they have the same title, right? So the chancellor is the higher up at the district office that runs Fullerton College and Cypress College and the Anaheim School of Continuing Education. We're all three under that umbrella. Inside that, it stated that they would not be forcing students to obtain a COVID vaccination. So if we did go back to school and we were in locked, inside a room, you would be around other students that might not have a vaccination. And then the other thing is that we would still have to be forced to push the 6-foot rule. So that means if I have a classroom of 25, I could only take 13 people because you couldn't sit desk to desk next to each other, which I don't like. Okay, because then I would have less students. Then the one thing they would want us to do is they want me to still teach the class on Zoom and have a cam up so I could still talk in the cam while talking with the class and engaging. And I don't know how to, that would be harder to look at work and then review while teaching the Zoom class and having students in the classroom too. So I'm not quite sure how all that's going to take place. To be honest with you, I don't know how I feel trying to lecture with a mask on and at the same time trying to talk and help students. And then I don't know how I feel with students all sitting next to each other and close to each other, knowing that there might be a couple in that room that could have COVID, spread COVID, or don't even have a vaccination yet. So there's so many different things. That's exactly my problem, Raul, is that when you get a bunch of people together, you don't know if someone has, if they're sick, if they have the flu, they could have COVID, whatever. It's unknown. So it creates this weird sort of paranoia with everybody. So with all that being said, it's what they call a very gray area. They said to us in our meeting, it's very murky right now. We're trying to figure it out. I'm like, it's more than gray. It doesn't really make any sense, just like Connie just said. So I don't know if we have an exact answer, but what I'm thinking of doing is teaching the majority of my classes back online again. Then having our lab in certain rooms open and available. So if you guys don't have Cintiqs at home and stuff like that, you guys could go to school, sit inside the lab room, a space apart, and be working on your projects and continuing having access to the technology, the Cintiqs, the computers, printers, anything else you might need. So that's sort of the genre we might be going in. I might try a Tuesday and Thursday class. I'm not sure yet. So I'm trying to figure it out and come up with an idea on how all of this would sort of come together. The programs be free or we still need to pay? No, the programs, the software we pay for. The software would be on the machines at school. So, but if you're working from home, taking an online class, you would have to have the software on a computer if you're not going to go into the lab room and work, if that makes sense. So I could still critique on Zoom, talk with students on Zoom, and then it's your choice. If you want to go to, we couldn't, doesn't make sense. How could the school pay for software on your computer? That's your computer, belongs to you. So that doesn't really, we can't access your computer. That would be a logistical nightmare to have to do something like that. So unfortunately, you could literally do the work, and then you could go to school and work at school on the computers, and the software would be up and running on the computers. That is a plausibility and something that you could do. Okay, so that would be. Adobe has a Photoshop only subscription for $10 a month if you want to be at home, which isn't too bad. That's pretty affordable for students only, not for me. For me, it's $30 to $40 a month. So anyway, so those are some of the options. So some of the teachers are like Mike, he has a couple drawing classes that go out. So he's like, hey, we might do a hybrid class where maybe they meet on Zoom, then they go out on field trips, everyone's wearing a mask, you're 6 feet apart from each other, then you can still keep that going, that flow and that energy of the class can still take place. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be able to balance some of that in with some of my classes. So I might, the fact that we don't have an answer yet, I'm going to wait. The problem is they want us to pick our classes in the next week for next semester. So since they want us to pick them so quick, not having an answer to what's going to be around the corner or how things are going to be arranged. And then the other problem is if cases are dropping now, what if cases rise again? If they rise, then they would definitely go to online. So I just thought I'd give you guys a heads up. I've been getting lots of emails and questions from students about what's sort of going on and what's happening. My concern is that I believe other colleges are telling their students, like, you, in order to come back here, because we do this with hepatitis. So to be a student, you have to have your hepatitis shot. It would make sense to me if you're going to have a student come back, you should have to have your COVID shot too, you know? So I'm not quite sure on how that's going to pan out or what's going to happen, but I just thought I'd share what I do know with you. Okay. All right. With that said and done, let me hit share my screen. Is it on share? Yeah. Excuse me. And let's take a look at the work. There's a lot of good sketching and ideas that came out. We'll start here with the work that I downloaded. Okay. All right, Brandy. Like what you have here. You have some fun, interesting shapes that are coming together quite nicely. Those rocks are all very beautiful. Rocks like that are very great because they could be very stylized. I know, Brandy, Cal State Fullerton does give a full Adobe to their students. And one of the reasons why they do that is because they charge a lot more money for classes. So they have that type of expenditure to buy it in a group pack. Oh, trust me, we've been hunting after this and asking forever, and they still won't do it. So if we were to raise our classes to, you know, $950 or $1,000 a pop, then they could probably do it and afford it. But at $150, they're not going to do that with us or for us or for the students. And I know for you, I was a student at Cal State Fullerton. That's an awesome arrangement that they have, because as a student, you can get access to Illustrator, Adobe, almost everything, and it's just free. So you just log in and get it. So anyway, unfortunately, we don't, from my knowledge, the school or the district doesn't have that funds. And what you could do as students is you could go protest that, and you could go to the member board meeting at the district. It's on I think Tuesdays and Wednesdays at different days. And you could go stand up and go, hey, as a student, how come this isn't here? How come they have this at other schools? They can hear your opinion about that. So I've had to fight tooth and nail just to get the school to take over the Photoshop licenses. They used to make us pay for that out of money that came from we had to write grants to get money to pay for that. And it was a really bad system. Now the school covers it. So at least we do have it on campus. Unfortunately, we don't have it the way Cal State does. Anyway, so Brandy, this is the really nice sketches, nice work. In terms of one of the things I'm going to mention to you guys that's going to help you with your structures is, if you can, try to think about getting out of a cube shape. And what I mean by that would be, if, in fact, I could do this with this drawing right here. If I take this, and it's a really good idea. I just want to show you, if I were to take this right here, and then if I were to come over here and take the roof, and if I elevate the roof a little bit higher, up to about here, okay? And then if I come down, and let me take the bottom part again that you had in here. There we go. If I copy and paste that, and if I put it right up here, and if I squash it inward like this, a little bit more, put it like that, okay, just like that, okay? That drawing is going to be 10 times more interesting to the viewer. And the reason why, everybody, that's more interesting is because of this. The more exterior silhouette that we have to wrap our little eyes around, the more interesting the viewer will find that drawing inside a piece. So this is a great start. That is 10 times interesting because it's elevated, it has a little bit more detail, and it doesn't have, remember, we're not designing inside a cube. So one of the things, so what I would comment on, Brandy, is these are beautiful little sketches here. They're very nice. If I had to pick a favorite, I'm probably leaning towards the direction of that guy. But then I also like the one that I just created. I did like the simplicity of this one. I just wanted to raise it to give it a more defined second story to it. So the shapes, that's why I told you guys these should all be second story drawings, okay? They should be at least 2 stories tall, because that way you're more likely to have angled roofs. You're more likely to have a wider section, a thinner section, and so on. It's a little bit more well balanced and develops the drawing a little bit more. So you can easily do that one. You can do this one over here. Now, even on this one, I'm curious if there's a way that I can maybe pronounce the shapes a little bit more, maybe angle the roof, maybe pitch it out a little bit more, just so I could get a little bit more of that atmosphere sort of happening. I wouldn't put a tilt on it because then it looks like it was built crooked. And then technically, if this was, I always take the standpoint, since 90% of productions out there are going into 3D in terms of animation. If somebody wanted to open that door would not open correctly because it's not at a 90. The door would open into itself in Maya. So there's something that I call, it's like the physics of a drawing, and it's a drawing being able to work in Maya because the drawings and the work that we do are influencing animated productions. Okay. So this is cool too, but you're getting that roof is getting a little bit more complicated, having all those shingles in there. I would probably I really like that roof you did there. It's super easy. It's friendly to do. It's very stylized. So if I had to pick between here, I'm sort of liking number 1. I'm liking number 2. The rocks are absolutely gorgeous right there. Okay, so you can take those, run with them, do a couple plants. You'll see in some of the other sketches provided from students today. A lot of people did plant ideas and tree ideas, and there's a little bit more stylized ideation there. Now, one of the things I was going to try to do is, I think this weekend I might do it. I'm going to do it today too if we have some time towards class. I'm going to draw for a little bit, and what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about this weekend. I'm going to try to do a demo for you guys, and then I'll email everyone to let you know if it's up, that explains how to just do some really fun graphic elements that can be used for trees and bushes and some other related drawing samples. Okay. All right, Brandy, good work. Thank you. These rocks are beautiful up here too. They look really, really nice. Okay. Good work. Okay. Next up here, we have Carrie. All right. Hi, Carrie. Those trees are a lot of fun. They're great. I love the rocks down below. They look cool. And the houses, I really like these houses quite a bit. They have a very fun sort of Keebler elf feel to them, if you know what I mean. They're nice. There's good movement in them. There's nice little sway. There's some really good gesture. Without a doubt, even looking at these, my eye goes right over to number 1. It has a really nice shape. The outline on number 1 is tremendous. It's just a gorgeous little outline. It really reads quite well. It's very nicely done. It works excellently.
Yeah, that one's my favorite too. Thanks.
Yeah, it's you nailed it down. I mean, all you got to do is just put a landmass under it like this, put a little dock or something, and it's done. Then you just design the environment around it, So even the perspective is totally as perfect as well, in terms of we're not looking down on it. Because I noticed, I did talk about that a little bit. A couple people adjusted and started looking down on the houses. And we want to keep them sort of with that horizon line being about here. That way they fit into the piece. So yeah, Carrie, I think that's great. It's simple, it's easy, it works very well. And then if you have some really fun ideas here too, you could still even stylize those a little bit more if you wanted to. Up to you. Okay.
Okay, thank
But
you.
they're really great. They're really nice. So today I'll do a quick demo on how I would comprise start bringing a bunch of items together. And that's our goal then for next class, is to do a good 3 or 4 thumbnails and really put everything together and solidify our ideas into one. Okay.
Okay, I do have a question though. How would you recommend stylizing those further? Like anything specific?
So here, let me show you real quick. Hold on one second. It's from my other class. So, uh-oh. Oh, wait, what am I doing? That's the wrong class. Start 148. There it is. So I went up on the blog here. I put all the information up. And down here towards the bottom, I came across this really cool cloud example too, with this sort of wisping stylized clouds that were pretty neat. But what's really cool is, this is what I mean by stylization, is you can get into a very graphic arrangement like this right here. So do you see these leaves? Those could be trees, or those could be leaves. You could stack them together and they'd be large. They could look like a bush in the front, or you could even get into something a little bit more like this. Like, this is similar to what you were doing. These are very just sort of round organic shapes, like jelly beans, with just the trees stamped on top of them. Okay. Another example would be something in the realm like this. This right here is what I call an Ivan Earle tree. Okay, I can show you some examples of that a little bit later today. I'll pull up some Ivan Earle. So do you see how that looks like it's just a cone shape? It's like a melted crescent on there that overlaps.
Yeah.
Because it's erased a little in the middle, it feels like it's hanging down. And then what you do is you just take like a stipple technique with a brush, and you just sort of put these round little dots, and you build up this gradient flow on top of it. And even this one's really cool. See how there's these really cool, like, it looks like pieces of paper almost cut out and stacked on there. So, and then looking over here, doing pine trees. Sometimes a pine tree is just the silhouette of the tree itself. It's a very simplified look and feel. So, and then here's another example that I showed you guys. Like, see these bushes? And this is why I thought of doing a demo for you guys, explaining this over the weekend a little bit about how to construct some of these. So some of these are just the branches created dark, and then they come back on top of it. You can either make a mask or make a selection, and then you just put like a round element on top, and you go in and you sort of build up like a stipple feel, or there's different ways to do it. You can do it as a gradient with a texture on top of it. You can come back into it, and you can do the process of elimination, where you paint it as one elliptical shape or crescent shape. Then you come back with a really cool eraser, and you erase out chunks out of it, and it gives you that sort of leftover feel. And like, even here, look at these pine trees. You see how those are just literally like a diamond of green, a stretched diamond, right, pulled up, and then they just subtract little corners out and put some darks in there, and that's it. It's extremely, extremely stylized. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, and
Another
that's what
thing you can, I
I'm
was just
sorry.
gonna say, add on to this. Another thing you can do if you're just trying to like make something look visually appealing while you're stylizing is do the Steven Silver thing that he talked about, which is doing like followed like on the opposite side with straights and curves. So you like you draw a straight line, and on the other side of the branch, so it's
Yep,
like a
curve.
branch, and then on the other side it's like a nice curve angle. It
Yeah,
can give it like a
Right, yeah.
stylization.
yeah.
Awesome. I'll play around with that. Thank you.
Sure. And that's what I wanted to, I was going to start on Friday a little bit. I was going to start doing a couple little demos, see if I could put them all together and upload them for you guys to sort of guide you through a couple little approaches of working to create something very fun and stylized like this. Okay. But yeah, check out the blog. And there's also, I mean, you guys are so lucky to have a resource like this. I mean, oh, not there. Hold on. All my windows. Why does it do this? Whenever I go to grab something, all my windows just disappeared again on my computer. Come on, and then it doesn't let me bring them all back. So give me 1 minute. Let me get them all back up. Sorry. What I was going to show you is I had a Pinterest window open. And then in that Pinterest window, here it is. This is what I was going to grab and bring down. There's so much good stylization and variation up here. I mean, you can just click one thing and they'll see what you're clicking, and then they'll basically lead you to another example. So I mean, it's literally, you guys have the most ultimate reference site of all time to get to look at other artists' work and their approaches. And I mean, there's some really, really great ideas here. I mean, this is really cool. It has big clumps in the tree. Some of the trees have little holes cut through them. You know, look at these leaves here. They're very green and sort of stylized and sort of really organic feel to it. So that's what I wanted to do. And part of the demo was talk a little bit about that. And I'll work on that this week for you guys. Okay. Cool. All right. Let me get my window back here. All right. Thank you, Carrie. Excellent work. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with the trees you have there. The trees you have there are outstanding. I'm just throwing that out there. If you want to do something a little bit stylized, you can. You can go into that genre as well. Those are stylized too. Okay. All right, cool. And next over here, Ciro, these are great. They really came out very nice. Love these drawings here. You love this type of stuff, don't you? This is right up in your alley of design. This is the way your brain sort of is programmed to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works really well.
I'm not very good at the realistic stuff.
Yeah, no, these are great. And there's over time there's a space that you hit between realism and sort of stylization that comes together, and it makes things sort of work. So yeah, these are gorgeous. Look at those rock shapes. They're very, very nicely drawn. They have really one little secret that's working really well there is the outline's a little bolder. The interior line is very thin. And this is just a great example of more stylization. So what I really like is when I worked at VeggieTales, one of the things we had in our model sheets for the characters, as we talked about, like if we were to draw Bob or Larry would not just be a cucumber shape like this, but he would have a little bit more squash and stretch to him. So what Ciro's doing here is quite wonderful, where he's pushing up like the upper mass of that shape, and then he pinches it down like this. That's a great way to contort shapes a little bit and get them to be a little bit more distorted and work. So I really like that. That's excellent. This is a great example of just really nice, simple stylization. We have a straight with a curve on it, and then we just have that shape basically being repeated at different angles, rotating, and that's it. It's just really simple and easy, and it gives a really nice, fantastic feel that still feels like a bush, but it makes it also very stylized too. So these are absolutely gorgeous. Ciro, you did exactly what I wanted you to do. On your thumbnail right here, I wouldn't go too long, because what's going to happen is then you have all the space from here to here to be filler, and it might get, what I would do is I would consider maybe cropping your piece about there, and then maybe leaving it still a little bit offset to the right, maybe pulling out your frame a teeny bit more there, then coming here. Remember, you can have trees in here, so you can have trees in the foreground that are here, you know, that are acting as part of the design. You can have a mid-ground layer back in here. They can have some more little elements on top of them. Then we now pull into the house, and we're not ending up way over here on the left side a little bit. Okay.
Okay, so, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure. I love that thumbnail. I'm just, having a ground plane line in there, come in here and have some of these really cool stylized plants that you're working on, have these different shapes and sizes overlapping here. Then you have this ability still where you can get another ground mass in there. You can have a mass of land behind there. And then even behind there where the water is, you can get those, keep that tree line in there that looks great, by the way. And then that'll start to really come together. But use these trees to your advantage, because trees can be very stylized and fun. And then as we come back here, we can see a couple of these a little bit smaller. And what that's doing, folks, in perspective is this. By establishing a tree being closer in the front, we call this term transferring scale in the perspective class. So being able to see that a tree is that big there, we know as it recedes back to the horizon line, it's become that big there. There might even be one back there. So if we show in our illustration the size relation shapes going back, we are creating more depth in the piece because we're using the term transformation of scale. So there are a couple ways to create depth in a piece. One of them is through overlap. Another way is through establishing foreground, midground, and background. Another way is establishing scale relationships throughout the scene that sort of makes sense. Okay, good work, Cyril.
Thank you.
Excellent. Gorgeous stuff here, buddy. All right. Next, over here, we have, whose was this one right here?
Oh, that's fine.
Giselle. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I love the thumbnail, by the way. The thumbnail looks great. What I would do is I like your experimentation of houses like this, but you're looking at them at a down shot. And one of the things I talked about in last class is if you're going to experiment with the houses, draw a horizon line that's going to be representative, just sort of like what you have here. And then you have this beautiful silhouette shape that really exists in there quite nicely. So you already sort of nailed down that thumbnail. It looks great, but I do like that's very interesting to me, but I want to see that in an angle like this. You know, I want to see that and figure out how this is coming together when it's on a lower angle that's relative to the drawing itself. So getting that structure in there and figuring out exactly how you sort of built this, maybe how it comes together, I think that's really, really important to do. And you have a good sort of first pass in here, but match it up in relationship to the horizon line, because this angle is going to be a totally different angle than that. We are not going to be doing this angle right here. I talked about that a little bit later in the other class. It's okay if you want to figure out the shapes, but we don't want to have, and just as a reminder to everybody, I talked about this in the last lecture, we don't want to have a horizon line up here, because if we have a horizon line up there, it's going to be 10 times more complicated to show everything looking down upon everything, because that means we'd be having a grid like this, and it would just take up so much more time to have to paint that, versus what we did talk about to do would be you can have your horizon line in the middle, or you can have your horizon line in the lower segment like that. That would be totally fine. Okay, so if you want to keep pursuing this, just, you know, sketch it again into that angle and come up with some more ideas on how the house would look like. But when we do go to this angle, I'm telling you, because I've done this, it changes the composition. It changes the way we read the shape. It changes the way we interpret it and translate the information. And it's just a little bit more complicated. So that looks really cool. I really love that tree right there and right there. They're really cool. So my comments to you would be explore some trees some more, explore some rocks, okay? And then put a bunch of those into, that's one good thumbnail. Maybe do a couple more and see what you come up with. And remember, use the trees to your advantage. Trees, like this is great, what you have there, because that tree then having smaller ones in the background, those are going to overlap each other. They're also going to change value, which is going to get that feeling of tone to transfer back. Okay?
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, good work. Thank you. But go mess with the plants. Go do some leaves. Go do some rocks. Go do some clouds, you know, and just keep having fun with it. Okay?
Okay.
All right, good work. Next over here, Haley.
Hi.
Hi, Haley. I love the trees, love the rocks. The bushes are super awesome. The
Yay.
bushes are very wispy. They have that like feel like a puff of smoke got hit by wind, you know?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I think they look great. I love the houses because it's okay to do a house like this when you're on what we call a front view, because this is basically a low, if you want to design a house like that, that's fine. That's a low level horizon line house. The benefit of doing that like that is all she has to do is introduce a vanishing point, and then she just comes in and draws the side of the house pretty much, and she's done. And then it works. So that is a huge advantage of working on a flat front view if you want to design something. Now, I'm looking at all of these, and I just got to do this because I could already see it. Okay. Just take that guy right there and just put it on top of that right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
just move it down there and then hold on. Let me see if I can do it. If I just copy it, I'm going to delete it from there. I'm going to paste it. And that way I can get it right over the cornice. I'm going to squeeze it in a little bit more like that. And then look, and then I'm going to come in here and just erase this little part right here. So the cornice goes above it. There you go. There's your house right there. You know, right? So
Yep.
simple, easy, looks really cool peaking roof to it that goes really high. That's quite nice. Yeah. So to me, that looks really cool. It's definitely 2-story and it would look super awesome combined with these trees and other elements. I think it's you're going to have a really fantastic piece. And I really like your idea for incorporating the car. I think cars are a great asset to have. And again, one of the benefits of this is that having the car on the side view, you just pick a vanishing point and you draw the rest of the car. It's really simple. So even if her horizon line was, even if it was a little higher like that, we could still get away by drawing the top of the car, the side of the car like this, and the back, and it would totally fit in perspective. Or another cool option is even if our horizon line was down low like this, we would just draw the back of the car, the side of it, and that would be it. It would be done. So that's a great advantage for you of being able to draw the car in what we call a flat front orthographic, because you can easily get it to fit into the perspective very efficiently, you know. And then if you wanted to, you could even take this, you could even pinch it in Photoshop like that with the distort tool, and then you could draw the back side to it and you can have it turned at a 2-point angle and it would totally work as well. Okay. So
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful page here. Very nice work. I love it.
Okay.
Great job. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. My pleasure.
Wait. I have a question.
Yeah. What's the question?
Which car should I go with?
That's a good question. With that house, for some reason with that house, I'm sort of liking number 3. Because I like number 1. Well, number 1 could work too. Those Volkswagen styled buses were used very heavily. I grew up with those, and it was my era of growing up in the 70s and the 80s. So what I would do is I might make the wheels a little small and dainty like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would stylize it a little bit more. So that's a really tough one. I'm thinking number 1 and number 3 to me. Number 2 looks like you're going surfing in San Clemente.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I'd go either number 1 or number 3 with that.
Okay.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. And come back up here real quick. All right, Josh. Josh, those are really nice silhouettes. So look, guys, this is what I'm talking about. Look at the house. Look at how nice that is. See all that conjoined and all this together and the porch. See how interesting that is? Okay. Talked about this a little bit last time. That's not interesting. That's a square. Squares are boring. Squares are not fun. They're your enemy. Squares will bring the depth to your drawing. Okay. Josh, these are all really great. Number 3 is simple and easy, would totally work. Number 1 is more complicated, but could also work because there's a lot of interest in things going on in there. Number 2 also has a simplified feel. It's sort of up to you on what you prefer in your environment.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. And the trees look awesome too. I love them. Very nicely done. Very simple. They look great.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Right. Next over here, Leonie. Really nice rocks. Trees look very cool. Be careful on your houses. You're still a little bit of a downshot. With these going this way, your horizon line is way up here somewhere. So I would remember in that piece, you want your horizon line to be about right there on the house, hitting it. Okay. So I like what you're doing there. Sketch a couple more. I probably am liking this right here the most. I'll call that number 2. That'll be 1, 2, and 3. I like number 2 the most because it feels like a cabin house with the little dormers up above. But I would resketch that and look at that from that lower horizon line. Okay. These are great. Love those shapes. Really nice. Very pretty. And the rocks are looking cool. They have a sort of a rounded, smooth edge feel to them, which is another stylization that's very cool. So this is a good little start that you've done here. And I think you also had some thumbnails here too, where you're working out some ideas. So I would recommend just be careful. Here, your horizon line is about here. You're in the upper area. I would try to keep here, your horizon line is also up there.
Okay.
Okay, I would, like I talked about last class, I would keep your horizon line down about there, or I would keep it in the middle of the composition. Okay. Here, you're a little bit more towards the middle, but it's a little bit more upper to the top. It could come down a little bit more. So what you could do is you could reframe in there and go up a little bit like this. Okay. Now I know it's a battle because then I don't want to get rid of your foreground either, but if we get the house, we don't want the house too far up where we're looking down, like here, we're looking down on it, and that changes the good feel of the perspective. I mean, that could still work and you could still do that perspective. It's just going to be a little bit more time consuming because you have all this information from there to there that you have to fill in, versus when it's down a little lower or in the middle, you're just overlapping shapes on top in front of each other, and it tends to work a little bit easier. And just a reminder, don't forget, have some trees in the foreground, have a couple bushes in the foreground. You know, you can have there could be one of those block wall pedestal things with a gate that looks like somebody in a road that's entered us into part of that foreground. You can use those elements. Your foreground shapes will be key because they will be in a darker shadow to showing your piece working on this. Okay?
Okay. So,
All right, good work, Leonie. Say again, I can't hear you. Say louder.
Which one do you think the thumbnails or the number? I like number 1 because I want to put the lock, but it's not working.
I like number 1, but the problem is your log goes left or right and it flattens out the whole entire composition.
Okay.
So you don't want to have, I wouldn't put a log like that going across. And again, the log isn't going to make or break the piece. So what's going to make the piece is having foreground elements in here, having something in the midground, then having the house in the back where we can see it anchored in like that. Okay. So what I would do is I would just take another pass at reworking like number 1 and number 2 or 3, just rework them and go over them again and try to come up with a better composition.
Okay, I will.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Phil, sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
When we do the thumbnail, like my first page, should I draw in the 3/4 view for portfolio, or I can do the side view, the page, the before this one?
The one before this one, hold on, let me go back and check, see if I understand what your question is. So on this, you're asking about the house. Does the house need to be like a front view, or can it be drawn in a 3/4 view?
Yes, sorry,
It could be either one, it's up to you. But if you do the 3/4 view, I would do it like I mentioned in the last class with the low horizon line.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're doing double the work. Because if you draw it looking down, eventually you're going to have to draw it with the horizon line where you're looking up at the house. So just do it now, having the horizon line set here, and it's up to you. I mean, I can come in here and sketch an idea for the front of a house like this, and then I can just pick another vanishing point off the page and draw it in 3/4 and get a better idea of how the design, the feel, and the silhouette and the read comes together. You know, it's up to you. You can do either or.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Okay, my pleasure. You're welcome. All right, and the next is Naomi. Naomi, you're doing that same thing. Don't draw.
I know. I noticed.
I know.
Like,
You
after the
guys
first
give
one.
yourself triple the amount of work to do that. It's really, I couldn't imagine trying to design from a down shot. It would be like, my head would explode, you know? So just take your ideas here, you know, and just draw them with the lower level horizon line. You know, the cars look awesome. The bushes look cool. The rocks look cool. That tree has a beautiful gesture in it. Even these trees are very fun and stylized. They look great. Okay.
Alrighty.
So just go work the house
Yeah.
a little bit more, incorporate that. So some of you guys that sort of are still searching on the house, use this weekend to do this. Do another 11 by 17 page, explore the house variations, maybe some trees or rocks, then put your 3 thumbnails up like this, okay, on the side. And yes, you can also have a vertical composition on a thumbnail, as long as you know what you're doing. That's why today, after I critique everything, I wanted to take like a quick 5-10 minute break, and then I'll come back and I'll draw for you for a little bit. And I'll just sketch out some ideas and some composition ideas and try to incorporate those. Maybe that'll help guide you guys a little bit into your process of creating your thumbnails. All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Naomi.
Thanks, Bill.
Sure. All right, River, you went into color when you don't have to, but
I know.
that's okay. I know you probably couldn't resist. And you're like, oh, I just want to stipple those trees and make them into those. They're beautiful. Okay, they're
Oh,
really,
thank you. Yeah, I felt
they're a
because
lot
I
of
was
fun.
having a hard time, but the way my mind was going was towards the stippling, and I didn't know how to sketch that, so I just did it from the color.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, they're really cool. I keep looking at them because you're nailing down. So if the demo that I was going to do and talking about stuff, one of the little secrets is when you have the branches come in like this, you have to have a little pocket of dark there,
Mm-hmm.
because then it helps hide the branches underneath. Then you can put whatever you want on the top and do it, and then you can stipple it with lighter colors, and it makes it look like the light is hitting the top of it. It's quite wonderful because once you have this, even though this is really just pretty much just green and brown, what's really cool is you can come back into this and then you can put little stipples on top for like yellow or orange to show the light hitting it, you know? So it really works in your favor having something simplified and blended together like that. And by the way, I would take this right here. You could turn that into your own custom brush. And you could stamp that thing in a couple places and add to it very effectively just by painting over the outline of it.
Yeah, you're right.
That was another technique I was going to show you guys in the demo that I'm going to work on this weekend for you guys. Okay. All right. Yeah, these are gorgeous, River. They're so much fun. So in some weird way, I'm glad you got into it because you got to explore and you really nailed that part. But I wouldn't be that mean to say like, go into color already, because I would give you guys more time to draw and design and explore a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, here to your house.
I know, it's so square.
But here, I love it when you guys come back out and admit something and then I don't have to say it, but I want to show you what your answer is. Your answer is right here. Like that. Throw that guy on the top there. Erase these lines. Get him in there. That is your answer. Okay? We lost River for a minute.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
I'm moving it on my own screen.
That's
I'm
all
putting
right.
it together.
That's okay. I was in a faculty meeting yesterday and I'm sitting there like pressing the space bar and Zoom wasn't working. And I'm like talking and everyone's like, we can't hear you, so stuff happens. So anyway, I was saying, look, just put that on the top there. There's your house. That's all you got to do. I mean, I think that looks cool. So just go double stories with it. Think of it in 2 parts like that. That silhouette shape is really, really interesting. Come on the back here. You could have a couple things you could do. You could add the chimney right here on this side to it, flowing and curving, or you could even come back here and have the chimney coming up, from here and then coming back down and then pronouncing through there somehow, So you got a couple cool options you could do. but definitely go into that direction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, I have another one.
Oh yeah, I thought there was another page too. You have
I
this.
did, yeah, I did 3 pages.
Okay. Number 1 and number 3 look cool. I already see number 3 totally working. Right? It's simple. What's really great about this is you have a nice foreground element. You could still even have another midground piece in here with another bush or two or something. And we can see the house in plain sight. We can see the wonderful silhouette. And then you have stuff in the back. Number 3 would totally work. So if you have, why don't you, pursue a couple more ideas in terms of maybe the rocks or the bushes or whatever, and then sketch a couple more comps and see what you come up with over the weekend.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Okay, they look great, River. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Right, next over here, we have Rachel.
Hi.
Hi, Rachel.
I feel like I need to draw a lot more still.
That's all right. You did the first page. You have this weekend to go explore more. I can totally sense what you're thinking though. Like that's a beautiful little tree that's stylized with the large shapes getting smaller as they go down. That's a great idea. Absolutely fantastic. Having pine trees usually are pretty simple because they're just like a pine tree shape. I remember once I had a model of pine tree in Maya and do it stylized. So what we would do is we would pronounce the bottom area, and then as we got up, we would make them shorter in the width and shorter, and then we would make them shorter like that. So that's something you could also try. I love that gesture. That's very cool. And here you're sort of doing that. I would just pronounce the bottom one a little bit larger, you can take a cut or two out of it. Then what you can do is do like contrapposta, or if you have that in an offset angle, then really tilt that one a little bit more like this, like that. And then this one would then do the same thing. It would be tilted a little bit more like that.
Yeah, when I was re-looking, because I did this, I turned it in last night, but when I was looking at it this morning, I was like, I could have just cut triangles out of, I got really fixated on triangles, like even in my rocks, I was like, oh, I can make triangle rocks and like a triangle cabin. And
that's okay. Triangles are our friends,
Yeah. I think my favorite pine is the one on the right. I just went based on like a real tree reference instead of like, but I didn't know if like hanging off pieces like that would work, but I think it's my favorite. I just don't know if it would become too flat.
Well, what you could do is you could work that in with other pine trees as well. And what I mean by that would be, hold on, let me go back and I'll show you. Let me see if I can pull this off really quick. For example, if you take this guy and that guy you turn into a brush, that might be in the background shape of your painting. So hold on, let me show you. If I come over here and I paste it, there I pasted it there. Hold on a minute again. Let me paste another one here. This time I'm going to squash him a little bit so he looks a little bit different. And then I'll rotate it. Let me paste again. Okay, and then put another guy here. This one I'm gonna flip the image. Okay, mirror the layer, and I went to the other side. There it goes. Let me grab it, bring it back, and hold on a minute. Let me keep going for a minute. Let me make that guy a little taller, and then let me paste again, and we'll bring it back over. So, and then hold on one second. Let me merge these together, and I'm going to show you what I'm trying to go for. This was something I would probably also do in part of the demo real quick. What I'm trying to explain in this, let me erase this line here. Give me a sec. Let me come in here. Let me fill some of that stuff in here. What this does is this becomes just a large grouping of detail where we're just looking at the outline itself of it. Okay, then hold on a minute. If I come over here, and if you could imagine now, you take this guy. Let me select it real quick. Hold on. Move that layer up above here. But now, image, adjust. So what you do is you use this. Gosh darn it, hold on. I didn't select it. That's why I forget you have to select in the software. Adjust brightness. Why is it not making it go? Oh, there it is. Go lighter. Not that light. Okay, so where this would really work is when you have a dark mass, and then where'd the layer go? Gosh darn it. Come on. There, I hate it when it does this. Sketchbook Pro gets very buggy sometimes, and what it did is it dropped a layer all the way on the bottom. So now I have to grab it and bring it all the way back up here and get it. I was trying to get it up on top of that. So what you do is you end up having a dark mass. Oh my God, I swear to God, I'm going to scream right now. Hold on. I did it again. I'm trying to get it up above that layer. All right, I'm sorry. Give me 1 minute. I'm having technical issues here.
It doesn't let you undo or redo like for layer placement on this app?
No, it's not as clean and easy as Photoshop is. See, it did it again. It's just, it keeps snapping it down on the freaking bottom, and it drives me insane. I've learned not to go all the way to the top. So if I scroll like this, grab it, and there, and get it right there. See, it's not allowing me to do it. I don't know why. So I'm trying to get the freaking layer back up here above 21. And for some reason, it's just being super buggy right now. And it's just not letting me do it. I'm trying to move it. I'll move it one at a time. So I did it again. So let's try one more time, and then I'm giving up. And then I'll just do what I was going to show you is if you have a darker mass behind, and then you put that skinny pine tree in front of it as a lighter mass, then it would totally work. But you have to have the dark mass behind it, sort of supporting it and holding it together. Okay.
Okay. I don't know if this is the right time to tell you this. The tree I meant was the one above, like the square leaf tree. So
that's all right. You can do it. It doesn't matter. You could do it with either tree. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I didn't think it would. Okay.
I give up. It won't let me go above the layer. So it's being really buggy. Every time I try to get it above there, it won't let me do it. So I give up right now. I'm not going to pursue it anymore. I'm wasting 5 minutes here trying to get the freaking layer to move. So yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, but my point is you'll see it in the couple of the demos that I'll play for you today. You'll see them do that. They'll have a dark mass of trees, and they'll have either lighter or darker in front of it, because it helps the shape. It helps read and see what you're doing. Okay. You'll see what I'm talking about. So sorry, I was trying to show you. So you were talking about that tree?
Yeah, like just how it's floating. I think that's probably my favorite. I kind of got stuck and then had to try. I looked at Josh's actually and saw that he did like big silhouette shapes, and I was like, hey, I really like that. So I drew that, something like that, and then was like, okay, now it got the way I was thinking about drawing to change. And I got the tree, which I liked a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you still have time to pursue that. And that's why I wanted you guys to be able to see everybody's stuff and explore a little bit. So yeah, you can still explore that. And then on the houses, these are really cool that you have here. I'm looking at this house wondering if I just indented it like this a little bit, where that wall comes down, bring it a little bit indented in a teeny. And I think that house would be great. That house would be great. They all look really nice. I'm really a little bit more partial to probably those two. I think the silhouettes, they're simple and easy. They read well. Either of those could be sitting on that lake. I wouldn't do the tent. It's a little too simplified. I'd be careful bowing this too much. If you have it sort of anchored down a little bit, the benefit of having something anchored down, hold on, let me get my brush smaller here, is then it's easy to you can add a dock to it, in perspective. You could have a little driveway or side lot to it. Then you could just bow the ground around it like this,
Okay.
the land mass that it's on. But yeah, one of the rules They did this on Hunchback of Notre Dame. When the house structures come into the ground, they're very solid and angled, and then they draw them on hills, which makes them look like they're bendy, but actually the house, it has to be anchored correct in perspective to fit in, and then you can bend the other stuff around it. It'll make it feel more like a lakefront. Okay?
I see. Okay, thank you.
All right, cool. My pleasure. Thank you. Good work. All right, next over here, more fun and stylization, going a little bit into the evil realm, which you could totally do. Raul, look at that patch right back there of those viney, spiky trees. So, hi, Raul. How are you?
How's it going?
Good. These are cool, man. I love them all. They look great. You have some really fun, stylized trees here. That's a beautiful shape right there. It reads very easily. It's very friendly to see. I really like these. They're nice, stylized, round. They're fun, very organic feel. I love that house right there. I think it looks great. I would avoid that house. It feels too much like a triangle.
Yeah.
So I would definitely go with something into that direction. Yeah, and I like what you're sketching here already. Do a couple more thumbnails, and I think you're going to be good to go, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice. Good work. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. All right, next up here, Connor. So Connor,
yeah, I know it's all a bit wrong. I apologize.
At the end of class, let me meet with you real quick and go over some perspective basics with you that will help you. So there's one or two things that are happening in here that are hindering you. The number one thing is that you don't really have a horizon line in the environment. So not knowing where the horizon is and how we're able to see the houses and the structure, that's falling apart a little bit where we can't see the depth of anything that's happening. Okay. So if you want, hold on towards the end of class, and then you and I can talk real quick. I'll try to guide you through that. All right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Did anyone else have work to show that they didn't put up, or did I skip anybody? Because there's quite a few of you. Some of you in here owe me work. I know you're probably working on it now since you got to see everybody's stuff. Do you guys want to take a quick break, and then I'll come back and sketch a couple thumbnails for you, and then we'll play the video, and then I'll let you go work?
Sure.
That's good.
Does that sound cool? Okay, let's do that. Let's, what time is it now? It's exactly 10:45. Why don't you come back here in 10 minutes, and then I'll sit and I'll sketch for you guys, all right?
Okay.
All right, thank
Hey,
you.
Phil, real fast.
Yeah.
I'm one of the ones who's missing work. I just totally forgot to check it and see what I had to do, but I'll catch up.
That's all right, I know. I figured you and Alex
Okay, cool.
are a little behind, but you guys always get caught up, so I'm not worried about it, okay?
Yeah, we'll survive. Thanks,
Okay,
Phil.
cool. Give me 1 minute, and we'll be back in 10. I'm recording. There's something that you guys can try to do and mesh this into your design. It can be a really neat approach. This is something that art directors and some higher level designers do. Okay, what it is, it's thinking of a shape or two and bringing them together. So let me show you an example. In this shape variation, I'm creating a variation of shapes I can then plug into an environment. This one is what I would call, I will label this is flat line, okay, with two verticals. And what I mean by that is I put a flat line down like this, and then I put a vertical in about here. Now the one vertical has to be smaller than the other one. I put another vertical in about there. Once I get those verticals in, I come back in and I swing down like a piece of rope from that end. I swing it down to that end, and then I swing it down to the end right there. Okay. If you do that, and if you contort it at different angles, you create these very interesting shapes that you could use that would be repeating themselves inside your composition. It's another way of reinforcing part of your composition, making the viewer a little bit more interested in what you're looking at, because all your land masses end up being somewhat similar. This is a great little approach. I do this in my sketchbook quite a bit, where I come up with an idea and then I apply it. It also helps, Alex touched on this a little bit, in the world of character design. One of the key things to do is to focus on opposites. So if you have a straight line to one side of the character, The right side will be a curved line of the character. This mentality also applies to props as well. So in this example, what I did is I threw in a straight line, and then I'm just going to have an apex of a curve in there. So if I decide my apex of my curve is going to be right there, I'm just going to come from this base. I'm going to go up to the top of that apex. I'm going to round it off, and then I'm going to sleek it back down like that. Okay, so you can see every one of these has the apex in there, and then it just has a really simple curve on it. So that would be another approach. So that one, again, that would be a flat line with basically with a curve. Okay, that's another approach. Okay, all right, and then we come down here. Here's me taking the one I just did, the flat line, but now I put two curves in it. So basically what I did is I draw a curve like a flat line like that. I put one curve then there. I might put another one here. One's going to be higher than the other. So then this one will round up. It'll come to there. That one will stop. It'll round up. It'll come up and top off about there. And then here are some different variants that I did with that. If you want to try this and do this, it's a really simple approach to coming up with repeatable shapes inside your composition that reinforce the composition itself. This is more of an advanced. I actually learned some of this when I was with Cliff Cramp and Zhu Win and Patrick Ballesteros sitting in grad school, talking about having a really great conversation with artists that have all drawn for more than 15, 20 years. And we're talking about coming up with advanced levels of composing and creating compositions. So I want to share this with you because as you go into your thumbnails, you could do little studies like this. And these could reflect bushes, they could reflect trees, the masses of the hill shapes, and you could literally copy and paste and create an environment based off of this approach. Okay, just thought I'd share that with you really quick because that is something that you're not going to see a lot of students do, but you're going to see some professionals start to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let me move these back over to the other side of the page, and then I'm going to do a couple thumbnails for you on how I might structure part of an environment. Okay, all right. So let me zoom back in here. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple thumbnails, and I'm going to try to keep them different sort of paces. I'm going to go a little bit of a wide shot here. And so I'm going to imagine my horizon line is somewhere about in there. So what I thought I'd do is, now if I had these in Photoshop on different layers, it'd be a little easier. But what I can do is I'm going to mass out some of these shapes that I just used, and I'm going to put them in my composition. Okay, so somewhere about right here, I'm going to have a straight line with two heights, right? So I'm going to have my house on this line. So I'm going to have one hill line that goes up a little bit like that, and I'm going to have another one here that might be a little bit larger. So this is going to sway itself back down into here. So this one's going to curve back up into about here, and that's going to curve off the page. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to establish some foreground really quick. So before I do that, let me just sketch out a really rough idea. I'm imagining that I might have a little bit of a dock hanging out here, and then my house might be something like this. It might be one layer, comes up, it's going to recede back a teeny bit, and then I'm going to put sort of another layer up here to part of my house, and then I might bring this back with a third little tier, oops, and here like this. Then I'm going to dent the bottom and bring that back over like that. And that might be my general house shape. Okay, so that's where my house is going to be. And then I have that landmass that's there. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to repeat sort of the same thing. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put a line going down in there. I'm going to come up here. This time I'll go smaller. This time I'll go higher. And I'm going to bring that mass down to about there. And then I'll bring that in about there. And then I'll end that about there. I'm going to come in and overlap the shape right now. I want to overlap something in the middle here. Remember, overlap is one of the key ways that we really establish a lot of information. So I'm going to bring sort of a straight line mass that comes out there. I'm going to go a little bit smaller and a little bit larger there. So I'm going to wrap that up to about here. Then I'm going to go up. Actually, I decided to move it over, get a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to bring it back, imagining that this goes all the way that to about there. And then I can continue this mass of shape going in like so. All right, I'm going to do another one in the front. I really like this approach because it has a way of making some of the thumbnails sort of work a little bit. Then I could go in and adjust it a little bit more. And then last but not least, I'm going to come over here. I want another foreground element there. I'm going to go a large hill shape down to about a medium there. So this is going to come in. I want it to overlap this, come into about there, and then drop down and slope down to about right there and finish off. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Because what I'm imagining is here in my foreground, I'm going to have some really cool stylized tree of some kind that's going to be sitting here overlapping in part of my foreground. So I'm going to come in. Once I get that tree done, I'm going to sketch another version of it, maybe a little bit smaller. And here being overlapped a little bit. Like so. Okay. So now that I have that, I have a space behind this tree to put another little landmass. It could be act as a midground element. So I'm going to see if I can squeeze it in about here. I might squeeze it in about there, rotate it back in to about there like that. And the reason why I want that little mass in there is now I can come back in here and I can have, I'm going to use transfer of scale to my advantage, which means I could have another tree in here. It's going to be a little bit more stylized, but it's going to replicate the scale going back and getting smaller. Okay. So, and then I sort of have this negative space in here. I'm just going to close that off by doing another overlap. So let me erase part of that line there. And I'm going to bring that line in there. That would might be like the high point was about there. The base will come in and meet about there. Okay. So you can see pretty quickly by applying this technique, I start to get some really fun ideas and I start to get a good feel of what's working or not working in my piece. Okay. I'm also going to come back in the back in a minute and do that to some of the other mountains. But before I do that, let me finish part of my sketch here. Let me add my trees in the foreground a little bit. So I want to have a tree that's, oops, it's going to be nice and thick right up here, sort of in the foreground. And it's going to come over. It's going to be like this. Like that. So then I'm going to erase what that's overlapping so I can see, get a better idea of how this shape is working. All right, that might be tree number one. And then what I want to do too is I'm thinking of having some type of cool stylized bush, maybe in the foreground here. And then I can replicate that bush overlapping here. So it would be next to this tree. And then it would overlap right in there. Might have some type of circles on it. I might sketch in another replication of that there. Heck, I might even put one of them over here in different shape patterns. Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this is, do you sense the transition from foreground to midground to background already? I know everyone's probably drawing right now, but if you can look up, did you get a feel?
I'm shaking my head. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't see anyone. I only see Naomi, Ciro, and Brianna. That's it. But it really establishes a quick read for me to fill in. And then what I can do is I can still come back here, apply the same things. So I could put a mountain in the back here and do the same principle. I'm going to slope my mountain down to there. I'm going to bring it into the house, and then I'll bring my mountain back down that way. I might adjust this tree so I don't have a tangency right there. Okay. And then even on the back here, even though I have water around, I can do the same thing. I'm going to bring a mass in to there, and I'm going to bring that mass, swing it back this way. I might stop about there and go this way. And if I wanted to, I can even throw another little mountain in the back here. If you've been up to Big Bear, you have bodies of water and mountains around it all the time. So on this one, I'm going to slope it down that way. And then I'm going to bring it in a little bit lower, going behind the house, maybe finishing in the back. Okay. So the reason why I think like this on a stylized piece is now count the levels that I have to use. Oh yeah, I had one other idea I was going to put in there. I wanted to put one little landmass in the middle here, like that. right in the middle. Okay. So the reason why I do this is I have in this thumbnail now established all these transitional reads going back. And that is a huge part of nailing down stylized work, is being able to complete this work using atmospheric perspective to your advantage. So let's count my levels. Level 1, there's a level 2, that's a level 2, that's level 1, that's level 1. And then I come back here, I have a level 3 back there, which means if I wanted to, I could create another little landmass right in here, overlapping like that. So now this would become a level 3. And then this in the dock is level 4. The space behind it is 5. The space behind that is 6. The space behind that is 7. I've now created 7 levels of transition inside my piece. That means I have 7 areas where the color is going to get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. If you do this in your thumbnail, I guarantee you a success rate of about 98% of it working, okay? Because the dark to light transitions will totally make sense as it gets lighter. It'll fit into the world of atmospheric perspective. And still, I have a horizon line in here, and I'm still using that horizon line to guide my shape language and my shapes through the piece, okay? In fact, I might even take this drawing that I did today, start to put it into Photoshop, so when we come back, I'll show you how I can start transitioning part of my color scheme, going back, getting lighter and lighter, making my piece work, okay? That was 7 levels. That might seem complicated, but any of you in here could do 4 or 5 and get away with it, okay? But what I wanted to show you is how I was going to use this design and shape language ideation over here on the left and incorporate that into my piece. And I think I did that pretty well because I have a real simple piece that worked pretty good, okay? Heck, I can even do my clouds in the same way. I could have a flat bottom cloud closer to me that could peak up really tall, peak up lower, and then get smaller like that. And it'd be very stylized, but I could still overlap them and get some really cool little cloud shapes inside my piece. And that is a great way when you get to an advanced level of art direction and drawing and painting that you really create good visual reads inside a piece. Okay, so by the way, the clouds now became level 8. Okay, so that's 8 levels of transition happening in there. All right, and I know someone's like, Phil's doing paint by numbers in his class. Well, there's a sensibility to it. I hate to have to use the numbers, but I'm not using them as paint by numbers. I'm using them to divide up foreground to midground to background. And I don't think of it just as foreground, midground, and background. I think of it as foreground 1, foreground 2, midground 1, midground 2, background, maybe the sky plane, and then the very background with the earth curving behind it. So when you add all those up, yeah, you're going to come up to about 7 or so. Okay. All right. Does that help you seeing what I did right there? I'm thinking about how I'm going to paint it and how I'm going to construct it and make it make sense. Okay. All right. Let's do one more really quickly here. Okay. So in this one, how about we do a vertical composition this time? I know some of you might be wanting to get into verticals, which is totally fine. The great thing about a vertical composition is it allows your trees to become really tall and allows you to get away with more of that forest feel, like you're in a really engaged forest. I had to go to Missouri for a wedding a couple months ago, and one of our family members on my wife's side was getting married, and their forest there, the trees are like 3-4 stories tall. It's crazy. They're like looking up at these giant trees, and you really feel like you're stuck in a forest because you don't feel any sky around you. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to be using these land masses, which are flat line with a curve line. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a horizon line in the lower quadrant right here. That's where I'm going to want my house to be. Okay, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'm going to come in here really quick, and I'm just going to be really simple. I'm going to throw in a line like this, and I'm going to do exactly what I did right there. I have one line that's going to come up. I'm going to throw that line up about there, And I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to round off that landmass. And then I'm going to bring it right back down like so. Okay, so I'm going to do that here. So that's where my house is here. If I want to sketch, let's say I decide I want to do my house in 2-point perspective, that's fine. Make sure your vanishing points are really far out. I have a VP way out there. I have a VP way there. So what I can do really quick here is I'm just going to throw in a couple lines like this so I can get a good feel and sense of the direction of where my house is going to be. I'm going to come back here and do a couple other cross-section lines in there so I know where my house is going to be. So really quick, let me jump in there. Let me design a house. So I'm imagining a house is going to be like about here. It might be built into the side of the hill. Part of the roof might go up and then it might stop. And then I might have another segment to the house. And here, that's going to have another roof. It's going to swing up. Oops. Swing up a little bit higher. I might bring it up to about there. Then this is going to recede back coming this way. It's going to recede back to about there. That's going to come back. It's going to overlap in there. And then I might throw in another roof line coming up to about here and ending about there. So that might be my house. Now I'm looking at that and I'm realizing the scale of my house came out a little larger than I wanted it to be. So I'm just going to take it, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squash it down. So I'm going to, oops, wrong way. I'm going to bring it down a little bit smaller and put it in maybe about, actually I think it should be quite a bit smaller, about there. Okay. Now, one of the things I noticed that I didn't like is it was behind the hill. So I'm going to erase part of the hill, and then I'm going to bring part of the house. So I'm down a little bit. I'm going to indent it in. That always makes it look very appealing. So that might be part of the front of the house. This roof might overlap here. Might come down about there. This section might end up going about there. And then, hold on. Now I realize that that's a little bit the same width as the front piece. So I'm going to squash it a little bit. Bring it in here. Voila, there's my house now. There's my hill shape that's built around part of my house. I'm looking at this and I really don't like that roof. So let me fix it real quick. It didn't come out the way that I wanted it to be. I just wanted it there. Just have a real simple roof. I'll have a chimney on there. There's my house shape. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to come in there, repeat the same shape language. I'm going to come here in the foreground. This time I'm going to put a line coming up here. I'm going to put a rounded mass that comes down that way. Okay. I might even have my foregrounds might even be a little separated. So this one right here might start about there. It might round up there. So I might end up having some rocks and elements in here. I might have some other water. I'm going to put right in this line about here. I'm going to put a good chunk of some midground in there. So I'm just going to throw another line in here. I'm going to imagine the apex of this being really tall, about right there. And then it's going to really slope down and get skinny. Maybe it even dribbles off and there's another little piece right in there. I'm going to do the same thing here. This time I'm going to bring my mass out about there. I'm going to overlap that shape and throw that in about right there. Oops. Back in the back here. I might have a hilly mass shape that comes in there. Might have another one back behind it. Then I'm really, because I have a vertical composition, I'm really going to push the hill shape now. So I'm going to come in here, do that same thing, one line up here, but then I'm going to come up and make it really tall, and I'm going to go and bring that all the way down pretty much towards the house like that. So I'm going to bring this in and end it right about there so it drops into my house. That's really going to create a nice stylization feel. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to come into this, hit that tall shape, drop that back down in the house like that. Okay. And then I might even throw another one right in about here. So I have these really tall mountainous shapes that are coming in here. And then where I hit that, it's going to drop off. And I got a little close to the chimney. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit more like this. Okay. There. Now that I have those cool shapes, now I get to decorate the hills with trees and all kinds of other goodness. All right. And because I have a lot of height in my piece, I can really get away with quite a bit. Okay. So I'm going to start off here in this foreground, and I'm going to just come in here and use my ruler on this. I'm going to throw in a really cool stylized pine tree that's going to come up here and practically go off the page. So I'm going to put in these slants like this. These are going to be some of my angles. So when that comes back into here, it's going to come into there. It'll then overlap here. So let me erase some of these lines that it's overlapping. I'm going to indent that, bring that back out this way. Then I might have part of the tree itself right there. Then I'm going to come back in here. And I have that pattern there. That goes into there. Let me erase part of that shape. Okay. Let me erase this. And I still want to bring that out more to make it thicker as it goes towards the base. This is the fun part in getting to do this stuff, you guys. Power of overlap is so tremendous, and the results are like literally instantaneous, you know? I want that to overlap a little bit there. Come up a little bit more to about there. And then I'm going to bring it off the page. There, so that's tree number 1 in my foreground, right? Look at how tall that is. But what's cool about this method, you see how I used all of these hill shapes here? Oops, these up here, they're just straight lines. Having that line like that really got me to get in there. And once I hit that apex, really got me to push down those hill shapes. There's really quite a bit of squash and stretch by thinking of moving the center line of the hill around. So do you see how that pushes and reinforces us back into the house that's in there? Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I might come in this one. This time, I might throw a stylized bush, or no, let's do a cool leaf, a plant here. So I'm going to just do this. I'm going to come up, I'm going to make an angle, and then I'm going to put a point on my leaf like that. And then I'm going to put a center line on there that goes down. And then when I come into the edges, I'm going to take out some little edges like that. And I'm going to repeat that same shape mass constantly in my piece here. So if I do that again, I'm going to bring another one up to here. So where that line just went, I'm going to erase around it. There's the center line. There's the top. Comes down. Oops, my center line was there. Then it's going to angle down like this, like that. That'll be that leaf there. And usually, whenever you do a plant, you have to have a minimum of 3 leaves, if not 5 leaves. Okay? But you're going to make it feel very stylized, very fun. Here, I'm going to throw another one just overlapping in the front. Like that. Okay, voila. There. Now I have my stylized leaf in there. I'm going to come over. I want to really put another really cool pine tree in the back here off of the midground hill. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to draw that center mass. It would be the pine tree itself. I'm going to race around it really quick. And then I'm going to put in some slants. One slant there. Contrapposta, baby. One there. One here. And then I'll do another one counter angling about right there. Okay. So I get that in. I'm going to grab this corner here. I'm going to come in, bring it in about there, put a little triangle wedge in there, cut that out, bring it this way. Then I'm going to erase these little lines in here. So I see where that matches in. I see where it hits. I'm going to come in here, do the same thing. I'm going to overlap that. So I'm going to start it here, bring it in there, cut some shapes out of it, like so. I'm going to come up again. I have another one up there. It comes together. And then I might run it right off the page a little bit like this. Okay, there. So now I have a really great foreground already set up here. Let me put maybe behind this, I'm gonna, to enforce the scale again, I'm gonna put these cool little leaves that I did here. I'm gonna put them behind this hill right here. So I might come in here and then be like, just go like this, make it smaller. Okay, it's a little bit of a tangency there. Let me erase that. I'll just minimize it. There, that's fine. Okay, all right. Next thing I'm going to do is I got that cool little transition there. Now, if I come back and I put a palm tree by the house, I said palm tree, a pine tree. I can't talk today. If I put another pine tree back there, that'll really reinforce part of that perspective. So let me just sort of zoom in here. Now, what I'm going to do is I want there to be a little bit of a road that goes to my house. So I'm going to come in here and put a little bit of a road that goes that way. Maybe it's just sort of stylized. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to put some greenery behind the palm trees. Okay. I keep saying palm trees, the pine trees. So what I'm going to do for that is do this. I'm just going to come in here, put rounded mass that looks like bushes there. And then I'm going to come in here and do the same thing. I'm going to get in and about there. Now I'm going to come in and put the pine trees sitting on top of that. Okay. So I'm going to come back in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my eraser quite a bit smaller. I'm going to have one. It's going to be pretty tall about right here. So I'm going to start it down. Hold on, go back to draw. Okay. So I'm going to come in here. That'll be the start of my tree. It's going to have a shape here. Might be a little wider. It'll come up, go there, and then I might cap off about there. So there's a pine tree back there. I might put another one behind the tree structure, right in there, behind those bushes that I had. And then let me snap another one right in here that's curving a little bit. Overlapping there. So then I have that. The benefit of me doing that is now I could put a row of them back here. And you're going to be able to see them. The pines are also in the back here, making silhouette shapes around there. Okay, overlap. The next thing I'm going to do, there's always rocks around ponds, right? Rocks sit in the lower part of the waterway. So to create a waterway feel, I'm going to drop a line down, and then I'm going to put a very light line like this that would represent where you can see the landmass in the water, where it gets a little shallow. Okay, there, by putting those little landmass lines in there, even one here, like that. Move that guy over a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to overlap. I'm going to do these same masses I did right there, but they're going to be small like rocks now. So I'm going to put maybe a large one in about right there, and then I'll make some small ones. So I'll come in here. I'm going to overlap part of that. Put that one in there. And then I'm going to overlap a little rock there, rock here, and there. So I'm just going to come over here, put that in. Like that. And then that gives me the illusion now that I have some rocks along part of my shore. I'm just replicating the same shapes that I used earlier. Okay, I'm going to do some of that right up in here as well. Overlap is your friend, you guys. This is how you really get good work to come together, because it makes sense. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a larger mass right in there, like this, with a smaller mass around it in front of it. And then if I wanted to, that gives me the angle to be able to come in here and maybe throw a little boat dock coming off. And then I could put a little pathway to the house in there. And then come in, throw another rock on the side there, a couple little small ones here, maybe one up there. Same thing back here a little bit. Overlap that. Oops, I got all squiggly. There. Okay. Do you see how my pieces come together pretty quickly? I haven't even addressed the back yet. I haven't even addressed the silhouette shapes of more pines and foliage back here. I can have bushes and stuff. Then I get to come in here and start putting more stylized tall palm trees, pine trees. I'm going crazy, guys. You know, I keep saying that because I have my backyard is really huge, and I'm a green thumb, which means I love to get plants, and I have a variety of really cool tropical. I have like, I think I can't even add. I have 78 different plants, 84 in my backyard, and about 25% of them are different varieties of palm trees.
You take care of those all yourself, Phil?
Huh?
You take care of those and keep them alive all yourself?
I do. I have them set up on a watering system, and I have really cool. I have what's called a foxtail palm. I have king palms, couple queens, some really cool stylized other palms. Anyway, I really enjoy. That's my favorite thing. Is I love outside of drawing. It's how my release is going out, you know, gardening around and cleaning stuff up in it. And what's really cool when we have like people over, buddies, I love to cook. So I'll cook, we sit around, and you're like literally feel like you're in a tropical jungle because there's so many trees around you, you know? So I have these one palm trees, they're called a bottleneck palm, and they're not growing too well. And I should have known that. They only grow very well in the Caribbean. What they are is a really round base like a bottle. And then the tree comes up like this. And then it has these really long palm leaves that come off of it. It's a really interesting shape, but it doesn't grow that well. So I'm about to rip those out and put in some king palms or great palm trees. You could literally drown them with water. They always grow. They don't drop any seedlings like queen palms do. And they're really fantastic. Okay. All right. So do you guys see how I pulled that off there? Again, let's count some of the layers, the levels in here. Even my clouds up here, I'm going to do the same effect. Straight line on the bottom, rounded top, lightly round again. I'll come back in here. I'll even overlap that with another one. Rounded, small, come back into here. Back in there. So do you see pretty easily I have a pretty workable composition. Just remember the golden rule, horizon line in the right place. And the reason for that horizon line is it really allows me, gives me the option to stack elements on top of each other very effectively. So let's count the layers. That's layer one. That's a layer one, right? That's a two. That's a two. Okay. I only go to 3 right there, but then behind that, I have a 4, I have a 5. Okay, so that means that would be 4, that's 5, that's 6, 6, that's 7. The clouds are now 8. So I have another 8 layers of transition, of gradient transition to happen in there that's really going to make the piece work. Okay, so if you go back, don't think of it as paint by numbers. Just go back into the piece and look at that, feel that. So this is something that took me a while to learn. Being around artists like Robert St. Pierre, Michael Spooner, Fedja Johanovic, sketching with these individuals, really learning how to develop placement, thinking about foreground, midground, and background all the time is a pivotal part to establishing a drawing. Okay, and then really quick, give him a knife and tell him to hunt. You're gonna do what, Brianna, with a knife? I don't even want to know.
Nothing.
Okay, I don't even know what you're talking about. So really quick is a reminder here. I was going to put this up on the blog and I forgot to grab these images for you. Let me just show you right now. This guy, I will download him today and put him up for you. Yeah. I heard something.
I uploaded rock drawings too, if like reviewing them, or if not, that's okay too.
No, I'll review them. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll review them real quick. This is Ivan Earle. Okay, Ivan Earle was a master at coming up with stylized trees and environments and worlds. If you want to look at some really good trees, he designed most of Sleeping Beauty. Okay, that was where he got sort of a start. And then what he did is he went around and produced these really wonderful images of California in a very detailed graphic sensibility. The cool thing, and I know Sarah would probably really like these, even though they're very stylized here, I will grab some of these and I'll upload them for you, okay, today. Even though they're very stylized, the one thing that's important about looking at these is you can still have stylization. You can still have cartoony shows, but you need to follow the rule of perspective and the horizon line and atmospheric perspective. If you do that, look at this, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He has 10 layers in transitioning happening right there. And this is why I don't want you to put a high horizon line, is that you have to be a master at understanding how to get those transition layers to go back from dark to light. Okay, but when you look at some of these images and you look at the graphic reads, the way that he creates trees, the way that he stylizes large shapes against contrast, the way he does little bush, look at those trees. They're hard to see, but they're just absolutely wonderful. Okay, there's so much goodness to them. All right, so what I'm going to do is really quick here. I wanted to play a couple videos for you real quick. All right, but before I do that, let's take a look at Brianna's real quick. That way we have everyone covered for today. So let me go back and give me a second here. So Brianna, you uploaded yours, right?
Yeah, I uploaded it into a folder in the Google Drive.
Let me refresh. I'm not seeing your name up there real quick. There you are. You changed your name to Dragon Slayer? I'm just kidding.
No?
I'm just teasing. No, I got it. It's right here. Let me bring it in. Uh-oh.
Don't slay the dragons, befriend them.
I know, right? Hold on. Let me try it. I'm trying to grab it off. My cursor won't get over there. Go over there. And I have it. Now I need to get back. Why won't it let me back? Hold on, let me drag it here first. And now that I have it, there it is. Now I got it back. Now I can open it. Okay. Anyway, does this make sense? Does that help the way I'm drawing and constructing these? Showing you guys how I would build it. Usually I don't draw that tight. I usually am much looser, but I'm being tight like that because I'm trying to break down the importance of the foreground, midground, and background for you guys in this piece. All right, there it is. I didn't even get into rocks yet, man. Rocks are awesome. Those are great. Those are beautiful, Brianna. I love the trees and the rocks. They look wonderful. You could still stylize more. It's up to you though, but I think those are great. You can paint on those and stylize the heck out of those too when you go to paint. Okay.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I was on the right track.
No, you're on the right track. That looks awesome. You could, once those are painted up, there's so much funness that you can have with those in the way that you start working. So I think these look cool. I like the direction of the thumbnail. Just work on a couple of those this weekend. Also, maybe consider some bushes, maybe a vehicle or something if you wanted to put that in your piece too. It's up to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. All right. So tell you what, let me stop here. Did this help you guys seeing this, the drawing? I hope it did.
Yeah, I feel like I know like what to tackle next when I start working.
Yeah, and the way that I built it up, you saw me build the secret from the horizon line. I built from the horizon line, established the focal point, which is the house, and then I come forward and then build back into it again. That makes a huge, huge difference. And what's cool is now I have something here to paint off of and work off of as well when I work on that demo for you guys. Okay, so really quick, let me save this.
Oh,
Like-
wait, Phil, real quick, do you have
Yeah.
time to like show us how to do like a rock or two? Because that's what I'm kind of confused about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here, let me draw a couple rocks real fast. Rocks, there are different types of rocks. You can stylize a rock, but the type of rocks that I like are what I call like a jagged edged rock, meaning that I think of the rock having a front and a side face to it. So I might come in and start, when I sketch rocks, I look at them like this. First of all, I always think of them as large, medium, and small, because rocks tend to be together grouped like that. So let's say I have a large rock like this in the foreground. Then I might think of having a medium-sized rock overlapping part of that, okay? And then I might have a couple smaller rocks in front of that that might be sitting out. You know, the problem is now these rocks can also look like dirt or like a dirt hill. So what I have to do is I have to get in there and define edges to them to make them look more like rocks. And rocks have these sort of like jagged planes to them that are going to make them feel a little bit more like the word I would use, you know, like rocky. So then I might have to break my line on an edge and bring it in like this, put a couple contour lines in there, and then it's going to start to feel a little bit more like a rock itself. Another thing that I like to do is I like having rocks lying on top of each other. So I might have like a large rock that comes out like this, that's overlapping, and then that's going to be sitting on top of a couple other rock faces, like so. And then those rocks, hold on, let me get that line down there of where that ends. And then those rocks, then there have to be, those rocks have to be sitting on top of some other rocks. So maybe there's another giant rock underneath it like this, and you just sort of stack them and you keep messing with them and breaking their shapes a little bit, you know, get the jagged edges in there. Have some pointy rocks. One thing you'll notice about rock formations is they always tend to be like they break apart and fall over time. So you have a large rock and then a smaller rock around it, and they're changing so in size. So I just try to get some jagged edge. I can't even talk. Jagged and rigid edges on to part of that rock feel, and then try to keep the outside line a little bit bolder, the inside line's a little bit thinner, and then try to wrap. Even if you have to get a couple cross lines going in there, that's fine if it helps show the change of it. And that's sort of one approach to doing rocks. Okay. The contour line is actually key in getting the flow around part of it. And remember, rocks sit on a dirt anyway, right? So usually you want to sort of try to blend that in there a little bit too. So if I have a bunch of rocks in here, all overlapping each other, then they might be sitting on a mound of dirt, and then I might break up some of these shapes, overlap them a little more. Okay, now another thing you could do, let me finish this back part here. And it's funny, once you get in a rhythm, you start really sensing and feeling what the design of these rocks would be and how they come together. That should be overlapped. Okay, so does that feel like rocks, right?
Yeah.
Or like a rock collection. So that's sort of keeping them into a collection together and then allowing the eye to see the shape of them. It's one mass, but then we see them all together. Another approach could be doing just like an individual. Like if you look at rocks that have like limestone and things that have been weathered down, granite over time, you know, you could have something that starts from the ground and just might have like sharp edges on it like this. You might have a large element that overlaps part of this. And again, the outside line, keep it a little bit thicker. The inside lines keep thin. And then when you get these sort of jagged edges,
So is there like a rhyme or reason to like contour lines? Because I think that's where I got confused when I looked at other people's
I mean,
work.
hey, look, if I watch me this next rock, if I do this rock here, and if I come in here and go, like that, it kills it. It's dead. The interior contour lines need to be nice and thin. They need to be flowing. They need to show a little bit of the surface and help you feel the pattern of what that rock is sort of doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the same thing when you paint too. The inside detail should be very thin, very easy, you know?
Okay. So if I just like focus on silhouette and just do some like thin, simple contour lines, I should have a good start, huh?
Yeah, but now I'm doing this out of my memory because I've had to do this before on different things. So it's in your best interest to go grab a bunch of reference to guide you and also be looking at some other people's art, because that's more of a jagged edge. What happens if I have something that's round and flowy? What if I have a rock like this with another rock shape on the side, and then that's overlapped by another organic shape? Then I could just come into this and put contour line. Might look like part of the pattern of that rock being smoothed over by like a waterfall. Maybe there's little circles on it, you know. You see how that's a little bit more stylized now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your contour line is pivotal in making the rock feel, because those look like rounded rocks now that you're going to see like by large bodies of water or a river, because they tumble around and they get smooth over time, you know? So I think the best thing to do is just to look at reference, and then you just try to stylize it. You take part of the drawing that might be working, and then use your contour line very effectively. And that was part of the demo that I wanted to do for you guys, is I wanted to paint some trees, some foliage, maybe some rocks, and show you how I would create those in Photoshop. And then you could import those later into your piece, them, you know, separately. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I hope that helps you quite a bit. And again, Pinterest, tons of information on that stuff. It's just loaded. Because, you know, what I did earlier on the style and the variations, I could do that with my rocks. I could say every rock I'm going to draw right now is going to have a high point and a low point with jagged edges. So I might go jagged like this, jagged like that. And then I might come over and then large, medium, small, right? So then I come over here, I throw another line in right there. I go tall, I go small, jagged there. And then I'm going to come back over here, put a rock behind it, and I'll go small, go tall there. Now, it's all about the interior line detail to make those look realistic. So I'm imagining, I'm going to pick a direction of light. If light comes from the left, I want to be able to see the face of that rock there. So that would be the face. That would be a face. Maybe that would be a face. But then that's going to fade off and there's going to be a backside with the shadow side, right? So now that shadow side might be in here like this. And then this might tremble off and come down a little bit. This might break into another piece. And then this facade starts to angle down a little like that. There, you see how I got those little lines in there that help show a little bit of the shape and form of what's happening. So you'll even develop your own ideas or patterns on how to make this sometimes work a little bit more efficiently, you know?
Yeah.
Because once you start getting in there and sketching, you start figuring out these little solutions in your brain pretty effectively on how to make stuff look pretty cool, you know? So these, I like these too. These are starting to get a nice stylized feel where I could come in there with some really cool gradients or paint textures, and I can really start popping them and breaking them apart a little bit more and getting a good feel on how they all come together. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, you guys want to watch one of those videos real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let me stop the recorder so that way we don't get blocked